Hi Shri, welcome to the project Address the Elephant. Congratulations on the funding. The dispersal of funds is subjected to the submission of the project within an appropriate format. Looking forward to your work.
I'll tell you my story. So, I used to work with an NGO focused on strengthening local governance to promote natural farming and reduce chemical dependence in agriculture. I remember this one time a small group of women farmers in a remote village adopted the practice and saw a huge turnaround in their crop health and soil quality. It was inspiring to see how they led this transformation on their own.
So right now I'm working on a project called Diet Diversity. We wanted to promote food diversity among pregnant women and lactating mothers in rural communities of Andhra Pradesh, where we promote behavioral change through trainings, through counseling sessions, through different means of capacity building trainings. It's a long-term phenomena.
So I used to work for an NGO that is into skilling and employment of low-income youth and people with disabilities in employability skills like communicative English, aptitude, digital literacy, soft skills, all of that would help them to get a better job and live a life of dignity where their basic needs are met. So a very good vision, but
Wait. What is happening here? Pencil and brush strokes are not part of our policy. We'd be able to measure the impact only when presented in appropriate format. You're allowed to do anything, but it must be captured in Excel cells. Kindly present this work in Excel.
But the reporting, oh my god, when it came to showing the impact, it was an absolute nightmare. We had to break everything down into these bureaucratic formats, crunch numbers on things that didn't fully capture the story, and then the endless back and forth on irrelevant details. It's like the system is more focused on getting the paperwork right than on actual change happened on the ground. You know, you just want to scream, can't you see the difference in their lives? But nope, if it's not in Excel, apparently it never happened.
the challenge is in just 2 months you are trying to skill people in areas that they have never been exposed. It is difficult for them to internalize such things. So obviously there was no major long-term impact of training in them, and I got to speak to many aspirants who we had trained, and then they all said that centers were more and more focusing on getting these people placed and not trained. Now once they're getting placed in such jobs like a delivery executive or a sales executive, how does all of these digital literacy, aptitude, soft skills, communicative English, all of these things do not even matter in such jobs, right? And of course we used to report the funders or donors as these many people being enrolled and then these many people being placed.
Funders, donors, they come with the mindset of corporate basically. So they try to measure any kind of developmental program like they used to measure in the corporate world. So they have defined metrics, they have defined things to measure, and they'll evaluate the program based on those metrics. But developmental sector doesn't work in that way. It's a long-term phenomena. But for funders, they expect results instantly. They give funds in the month of January, and they expect the results by the end of December. Basically, for them it's financial year. They wanted to change the entire discourse of developmental thing in just a year. But in reality, it doesn't work that way.
Okay, stop. This does not make any sense. Moreover, you exceeded the file size. We suggest you use only 100 by 100 cells. Additionally, our communications team mentioned that this does not follow our brand guidelines. You must only use black and white colors for your submission.
So yeah, because if you are so focused on just numbers at one point of time, you will be pushed to manipulate the numbers. Because if you do not manipulate the numbers, I'm not justifying that manipulating numbers is the way of life. But what I'm trying to say here is, like, you are pushed to the corner to manipulate numbers, because if you do not manipulate your numbers in the report, then your center is at risk. And if your center is at risk, then even your job is at risk, because then the sponsorship will just stop coming from this particular funder. And today, if it is not you, then the funder will maybe identify some other skilling organization and ask that particular organization to do the same thing.
At this point, I don't know what to suggest. I can only say, edges are unfriendly and therefore not part of our brand guidelines. Maybe you can make the work resemble a circle.
They look for quantitative numbers. They want to quantify everything, which is most of the times not possible. Let's say, and that problem we specifically faced in the case of gender, women empowerment.
Dealing communities much more difficult than like dealing like consumers or like capital markets ka folks.
Thank you for your submission. Our team found this work far from satisfactory. We wanted to know if you could at least elaborate how this work can combat climate change or contribute to AI research. That silence was not enough for us to fund your project. We regret to inform you that we are cancelling your project.